Welcome to English Total Listening Practice Podcast. Don't forget to join us every week for fun, friendly listening practice designed to boost your skills and confidence. Whether you're walking the dog, washing dishes, or just chilling out, your ears will thank you. Subscribe now, and let's make language learning part of your everyday life. Try the comprehension test posted below after watching the video to check how much you understand. It's absolutely free.
Episode 14. E.T., the worst game in history? In 1982, the world was in love with E.T. the Extraterrestrial, a heartwarming science fiction movie about a gentle alien who becomes stranded on Earth. The film told the emotional story of a young boy who helps E.T. find a way to phone home and return to his planet. It was a huge box office success and quickly became one of the highest-grossing movies of all time. People around the world fell in love with the character of E.T., and the film became a part of pop culture history. So naturally, people expected that a video game based on E.T. would also be a big hit. But instead, it became one of the most famous and disappointing failures in video game history. How did a game based on such a beloved movie go so wrong? To understand, we need to go back to the early 1980s, when video games were exploding in popularity. In the early 1980s, video games were everywhere. This time period is often called the golden age of video games. People played games at arcades, in shopping malls, and in their own homes. Atari was one of the most popular companies, especially known for its home gaming console, the Atari 2600. Games like Pong, Asteroids, and Space Invaders had made Atari a household name. Both kids and adults were excited about the possibilities of gaming, and Atari was making millions of dollars. Everyone was looking for the next big thing. When Steven Spielberg's E.T. movie was released in June 1982, Atari saw a huge business opportunity. The film was a massive hit, and Atari believed that a video game based on such a successful movie would become a bestseller. The company moved quickly. It paid over $20 million to get the rights to create an official E.T. video game. This was one of the most expensive deals in gaming history at that time. But there was a serious problem: time. Most video games take many months, sometimes even a year or more, to design, program, and test. Developers need time to come up with ideas, build the game world, fix bugs, and make sure the game is fun. But Atari didn't want to wait. They wanted the E.T. game to be ready for the Christmas shopping season in December 1982. That meant they only had a few months to get everything done. Even worse, by the time the deal with Spielberg was completed, they only had 5 weeks left before the deadline. Atari turned to Howard Scott Warshaw, a talented developer who had already created 2 successful games for the company, Yar's Revenge and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Warshaw agreed to take on the challenge, even though he knew the schedule was nearly impossible. Working long hours, Warshaw managed to design and program the entire game in just over a month. However, there was little time for testing or improving the gameplay. The game was rushed to stores in time for the holidays. When players first tried the E.T. game, many were disappointed. Even for 1982, the graphics were very simple. But the real problem was the gameplay. It was confusing and difficult to understand. In the game, players had to guide E.T. through a world filled with pits, scientists, and government agents. The goal was to collect parts of a phone so E.T. could phone home and be rescued. But the game had poor controls, and E.T. kept falling into pits. Getting out of the pits was hard and frustrating. Many players gave up after just a few minutes. People who would love the movie expected an exciting and fun experience. Instead, they got a confusing and sometimes boring game. Word of mouth spread quickly. Parents returned the game to stores and sales dropped fast. Atari had reportedly produced around 5 million copies of the E.T. game, expecting it to be a bestseller. However, only about 1.5 million were ever sold. The rest sat in warehouses or were returned by unhappy customers. This huge failure cost Atari millions of dollars and damaged the company's reputation. Combined with other bad decisions and a market flooded with low-quality games, it helped lead to the video game crash of 1983. During this time, the video game industry lost billions of dollars, and many companies went out of business. It took several years and companies like Nintendo to bring the industry back to life. After the disaster, rumors began to spread. People said Atari had secretly dumped thousands, maybe even millions, of unsold game cartridges into a landfill in Alamogordo, New Mexico. For decades, people weren't sure if the story was true or just an urban legend. But in 2014, a team of filmmakers and archaeologists investigated the landfill. To everyone's surprise, they found thousands of Atari cartridges buried under the dirt, including many copies of E.T. The legend was real. Atari had literally buried its failure. Today, the E.T. Atari game is remembered as one of the worst video games ever made, but also as a valuable lesson. It shows what can happen when companies rush a product and don't focus on quality. Ironically, some gamers now enjoy the game out of curiosity or nostalgia. Others study it to understand the history of video game development. And Howard Scott Warshaw, the game's developer, has said he's actually proud of what he accomplished, considering the nearly impossible deadline. The story of the E.T. video game is both sad and fascinating. It's a reminder that even great ideas can fail without enough time, care, and testing. The game is now a symbol, not just of failure, but of the importance of learning from mistakes. After all, behind every failure is a story and sometimes even a buried legend.
That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and picked up some new words and phrases along the way. Contact us if you want to take a conversation course. We'll be happy to help with your speaking skills. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.